Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that really it defines leadership, parenting, just existing in the world. It's the architecture of character.
Hmm.
But we aren't using the standard management textbooks for this. For this deep dive, you've brought us an incredibly unusual stack of
It's a
sources.
fascinating mix.
Yeah, we're drawing wisdom from the spiritual writings of Leo Tolstoy and Anthony de Mello, blending that with modern insights on behavior from Ryan Holiday, and then grounding it all in the philosophy of the legendary coach Bill Walsh.
And our mission today is really, really precise. We are not looking for instructions on, what to tell
Well,
people.
not a script.
Not a script, not what to preach. These sources are all focused on providing a practical, high-standard blueprint for how to be. We want to identify the core philosophy that determines, the quality of a person.
Because that quality is what ultimately influences your team or your kids or anyone watching you.
Yeah.
And the whole framework for this, the hook that got me, it comes from James Baldwin. He said, "Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them."
That sentence just stops you in your tracks.
It sets the whole tone.
It's the core paradox of all effective leadership, isn't it? Whether you're leading a company or a family, you spend hours crafting the perfect mission statement, the perfect rules,
The perfect speech.
all of it. But the actual measurable impact, the legacy, it comes entirely from the unconscious daily signals you're putting out there.
So if our formal instructions are, well, largely irrelevant,
Yeah.
if they aren't listening to our words, then we're kind of constantly on stage.
We are.
So we need to unpack this. What exactly are they seeing and what standard are they learning when they imitate us?
And that brings us straight to this idea of the silent sermon. I mean, the most powerful teaching happens when we think no one is paying attention.
Which is every minute of every day.
Pretty much.
This is that invisible lesson. The sources, especially Ryan Holiday's work, they really detail how things like judgment and bias and cruelty get absorbed.
Yes.
We don't sit our kids down and, teach them how to be bigots or how to be petty, but somehow those traits often take root.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Where do people first learn to be judgmental? It's almost never a grand pronouncement. It's in those small throwaway moments.
The conversational crumbs.
That's a great way to put it. The crumbs you leave behind.
I see it all the time.
Yeah.
It could be a comment under your breath about, say, your brother's spending habits, or a joke you make about a celebrity's weight as you're scrolling a headline.
Or even that. That complaint about a neighbor's terrible parking.
Yes.
And crucially, it's the tone in that conversation you have with your spouse over dinner about the other side, and whoever they happen to be.
You might think you're just venting.
Right. I didn't mean anything
Yeah.
by it. But those small cruelties, they register. They register deep within the audience,
Yeah.
whether that's a child or an employee.
So we tell ourselves, I'm not unkind, I'm just stressed. But the takeaway here is that your audience, they hear the tone. They register the small cruelties. They're reading your lips, but they can't read your mind to justify why you're in a bad mood.
That's it. Exactly. If your silent sermon teaches them it's okay to dismiss or judge someone when you're tired or comfortable, well, that's the standard they're learning.
And we just need less of that in the world, less judgment, fewer knee-jerk opinions, and that trend have to start, tomorrow morning with the small things.
And this behavior is so deeply connected to self-control, especially under pressure. That's why that warning from Ambrose Bierce is so sharp.
Oh, yeah. Speak when you are angry, and you will make the greatest speech you will ever regret.
Anger is that high-pressure moment that it reveals your character instantly. If you explode, that becomes the accepted standard for frustration.
But if you seek control, that's the lesson.
And the practical tool the sources offer for that moment is just breathing. Your breath fills you with energy, anywhere, anytime. That pause, that single breath, determines whether the silent sermon teaches destruction or control.
But controlling that explosion requires, massive internal strength, doesn't it? You need some kind of grounding.
You do.
So let's turn to that, the foundations of character, love and preparation. We're shifting from the action to the internal structure of the person worth imitating.
Exactly. And that structure has to begin with a spiritual mandate, a definition of right relationship, both with yourself and with others. The sources point to Matthew 22, the Great Commandment.
Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself.
And Tolstoy gives us this incredible lens to see that through. It's a bit dense, but he says, you should love only one thing in yourself, that which is the same in all of us. In loving that which is the same in all of us, you love God.
What does that mean in, practical terms? That which is the same in all of us.
I think he's talking about our shared humanity, the spark of the divine, or maybe just our capacity for suffering and for growth. If we focus on that, on what we share,
Then the surface differences, the politics, the bad parking, it all shrinks.
it has to. So the love he's talking about isn't some feeling I have to force for a difficult colleague. It's the practice of respecting that shared human spark in them.
And he contrasts this so sharply with self-love. He says, love of yourself is the beginning of death. Love of other people and of God is the beginning of life.
Yeah, the sources are clear on this. Love isn't a source, it's a consequence. It's what happens when you understand this shared identity. And when your audience sees you honoring the humanity in a difficult person, they are learning that. You're modeling humility, not ego.
This deep understanding, this is what Anthony DeMello calls awakening. He has that incredible exchange in 1-minute wisdom.
Oh, it's so good.
Seeing the truth is done in a flash, but opening one's eyes may take a lifetime. It sounds like you can't force this kind of wisdom.
You can't. He says it can't be conveyed in human speech. It's in the spirit, the mood, the atmosphere. You can't teach character by reciting facts. You have to become the atmosphere that fosters it.
That atmosphere is what people imitate.
He also has that powerful contrast with the idea of miracles. In one land, a miracle is God doing your will, bending reality to your comfort.
Right.
But in the master's country, a miracle is you doing the will of God, aligning yourself with a higher, more difficult standard.
Why is that distinction so important for character?
Because it's about expectation and responsibility. If you expect the universe to bend to your comfort, you'll always be frustrated, always irritable, which leads right back to those petty judgments.
But if you align yourself with a standard of grace or excellence,
Then your frustration goes way down and your silent sermon teaches resilience.
this alignment, though, it requires discipline. Which brings us to Jim Rohn's point. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment.
That's the link. And that discipline connects directly to confidence. The sources say, only the prepared individual deserves to be confident.
You earn the right to be steady.
You earn it.
Mhm.
Your confidence is rooted in your effort, not just in winning or losing.
And that preparation, it demands continuous learning. I love this simple equation from the source. Books equal mentorship.
It's so simple, but profound.
Your audience learns whether to seek out mentors by watching if you still seek out mentors. If they see you reading, learning, growing, they get it. They understand growth is a lifelong thing.
And that sets the stage perfectly for the final section, the standard performance. We've said character is absorbed through imitation, and it requires this internal work of love and discipline. So now, how do we make that a measurable habit?
Because Aristotle reminds us, excellence, therefore, is not an act but a habit.
It's a habit.
And when you talk about operational standards, I mean, Bill Walsh is the gold standard. He built a football dynasty not by focusing on plays first, but on this hyper-detailed framework for behavior, his standard of performance.
And this is the practical list for being someone worth imitating. It's so relevant outside of sports because these are standards of being, not just standards of, throwing football.
Okay, so let's get into some specifics. The first one is about work ethic. Exhibit a ferocious and intelligently applied work ethic directed at continual improvement.
Not just working hard, working smart toward growth.
Exactly. Then you have the interpersonal stuff. Demonstrate respect for each person in the organization, and this one feels key. Show self-control, especially under pressure.
That's the whole ball game. If you can't do that, the rest doesn't matter.
Then there's this one. Take pride in my effort as an entity separate from the result of that effort. When I first read that, it really hit me. Why is that separation so important?
Because results are. They're often out of your control. A great plan can fail because of bad luck. A terrible effort can succeed if your character depends on the win.
You're going to be unstable, arrogant in victory, bitter in defeat.
Totally. Walsh teaches that your character, your integrity, is rooted in the effort you chose to put in, and you always, always own your effort.
That makes so much sense. We also have to honor the direct connection between details and improvement. And finally, seek poise in myself and those I lead. These are truly standards of being.
And his famous mantra just ties it all together. The score takes care of itself. Focus on the process, on the standard, and the outcome will follow. Your character is the standard you uphold when you're exhausted.
And character, a lot like physical fitness, it needs a sustainable training regimen. The sources use a great analogy here about weightlifting.
Yeah, when you're young, you can go heavy, light, heavy. But for a character that lasts decades, the pattern shifts. It becomes heavy, light, light.
And the key is that the light workouts aren't rest days, they're movement massage, active recovery.
It lets you stay consistent over a lifetime. The sources say staying supple equals staying young. We need to stay flexible in our spirit, open to correction, not letting ourselves get rigid or bitter.
And part of that is controlling the emotional environment we create. Lydia Maria Child asks, you find yourself refreshed by the presence of cheerful people. Why not make an honest effort to confer that pleasure on others?
Half the battle, she says, is just not allowing yourself to say anything gloomy. If your silent sermon is all complaints and cynicism, that's what your audience will mimic.
We're teaching them what to expect from us every single morning, light or gloom.
And that steadiness needs pacing. John Wooden's advice, be quick but don't hurry.
Right. We don't need instant, exhausting perfection. We just need consistency. Moving step by step, we can travel great distances. Character is built in the daily choice, not the one big heroic moment.
This deep dive has really covered the whole spectrum, from those tiny acts of judgment all the way up to Bill Walsh's rigorous standards.
And the thread connecting all of it, Tolstoy, de Mello, Holiday, Walsh, is that character requires demonstration, not declaration.
It absolutely does.
Wow.
Simon Sinek says leaders are the ones who articulate the why and then they go do it. And that doing is what your audience imitates.
And ultimately, this is so personal. Joseph Campbell reminds every single one of us, you are the hero of your own story.
That story is being written and observed right now.
We have to try to make that story inspiring. Abby Wambach said it beautifully. To watch people push themselves further than they think they can, it's a beautiful thing. We have to embody that effort for those watching us.
And this brings us to that final provocative thought. Daisaku Ikeda reminds us that with love and patience, nothing is impossible. So we have to ask.
You're achieving everything externally. You're prioritizing important work. Your calendar is full. But are you inventing things to do to avoid the critical internal work of becoming someone worth imitating?
This change, this movement toward more kindness, more poise, less pettiness, it starts tomorrow morning. Not when you give a speech or sign a big deal.
But when you're tired, the line is long, and someone gives you a reason to be small. What will your silent sermon teach then?